We're talking today, probably a little shorter episode, but we're talking today about activity versus exercise. I say it all the time, hashtag activity first. I say activity first in most of my posts. You can see it constantly on my Instagram page at Perform Rehab Train. But what does that really mean? And what can we do to make that transition? I'm going to go over an example for you today and maybe help a few of you make that transition to activity versus just straight exercise, and show you some of the benefits that you would gain if you had made that transition over to activity. We're going to talk about that on today's podcast. Don't go anywhere. Stop defending mediocrity in our profession. Welcome back, and thank you very much for joining me on today's podcast. This is the Dr. Krol PT and Fitness Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lee Krol, PT. And what we're going to be talking about today is how to make the transition from 5 to 6 day a week exercise in a gym to adding activity in. What are some of the benefits of that? What are some of the benefits of just straight exercise? And how will your life change if you add in activity? So let's start with the idea that someone is doing basic standard in-gym exercise. And we're always going to have the disclaimer that it's better than doing nothing. And yes, it absolutely is better than doing nothing. I've never made the case that being in a gym or exercising in a gym or using the bodybuilding model is a bad thing. Just inherently, it's better than doing nothing. If you're going to do that or nothing, I'd rather you do the bodybuilding model in the gym. Even if you're not competing in bodybuilding, even if you're not working a bodybuilding type lifestyle. But what are some of the benefits of exercise? Let's take a person who's exercising maybe 5 to 6 days a week, and we'll look at what they do in terms of their exercise. So let's say they're going 6 days a week. Monday, leg day, Tuesday, chest and tris, Wednesday, back and bis, Thursday, shoulders, Friday core, and then Saturday cardio or something else, or maybe some sort of potpourri mishmash. That's a pretty standard type thing that a lot of people do. The bodybuilding model is pretty easy to follow. You want this body part bigger, you lift against that body part. You can break the body down into a bunch of regions or a bunch of different movements like push, pull, or chest and back. So it's very easy for people to do. And when you walk into a gym, you'll see a lot of machines there that really break the body down into a bunch of individual parts, like a lat pull down, or a seated row, or a bicep curl, a tricep press, a leg abduction, a leg adduction. All these things are meant to break the body down and work specific muscle groups, not necessarily patterns, not necessarily anything else, or functional movements, just, hey, we're going to work that body part right there. And again, better than doing nothing. So again, let's take this person who's working out 6 days a week, and let's go over what are some of the benefits of doing that. Because let's not focus on the negative, let's focus on the positive. What are the benefits of doing that? You get a health benefit, absolutely. You get a cardiovascular benefit, absolutely. Do you get better immune system function and better function of most of your systems in your body? Sure. To what degree? You can make an argument. Does it reduce your injury risk? I'm going to say, let's put an asterisk next to that. I don't know if I buy that just exercising body parts in isolation or exercising against one joint is necessarily going to reduce your injury risk. That's kind of a gray area. Do you compare it against a person who's completely sedentary, or do you compare it against a person who's maybe doing more activity-based things instead of just exercise as reps? So if you're comparing it to a completely sedentary individual, even still, I don't know if that's exactly the case. If you're comparing it to a person who's doing more activity-based stuff, absolutely not. The exerciser working 6 days a week with this type of model where I said breaking the body down in parts absolutely has no injury risk reduction compared to the activity person. In fact, their injury risk goes up, in my opinion. So I don't think they have necessarily a reduced injury risk. How about psychological benefits? Sure, most people who exercise are happier. They're happier, they're at a better place, they're more self-confident in most cases. Even though I would say using that model where you're breaking it down 6 days a week, I see a lot of people that get stuck following the wrong goals, and they get stuck following weight loss, or they get stuck following strength goals, even when they're into their 40s and 50s, and you start seeing physical performance generally is going to decrease. It doesn't decrease rapidly in your 40s and 50s, but generally you're not as strong, as fast, and you're not as able to put on muscle and lean mass as you are in your 40s and 50s compared to your 20s and 30s. So as people age, they start to chase this goal, and they find that they're in a really bad place. They're counting calories all the time. They're fighting over not being able to fit into a certain set of pants or a dress size or, circumference measurements. So I don't know that they're necessarily psychologically better. Better than the person who's completely sedentary? Probably. So we'll say to some degree that is a benefit. So there are absolutely health benefits. What about strength benefits? You are stronger. That is not a doubt. You are stronger if you're exercising in a gym, usually versus a person who's not. But how applicable is that strength? It all depends on what you're really measuring it against. So people have left my type of training because they like measurable results. I like to see that I'm lifting more weight than I was a month ago or 2 months ago. And I have nothing against measurable results. Outcome or objective measures are a fantastic thing. But if you're able to bicep curl 25 pounds instead of 20 for 8 reps a month later, is that really progress? Because what does that translate to? You're just able to bicep curl more weight. Maybe the bicep has grown a little bit in size, maybe it's not, but what does that really do for you? What does that translate into? Does that make you better at doing anything outside of the gym? And if the answer is no, then I have a hard time saying that, hey, you've really gotten a lot stronger. In fact, I've worked with people in a jiu-jitsu setting where I've rolled with people who are bigger than me. They have a bigger body than me, and I don't think that they're strong at all. In fact, I actually find that they're quite weak, and I can push them around easily because they don't have a functional strength. They have more of a gym isolated body part type strength. They can lift more than me in the gym. That's not the issue. But when it comes to actually applying that strength to something useful or an activity, the body has no idea how to do that because they've never trained in that way before. So I have a hard time saying that you absolutely have a strength and a power advantage if you're exercising in that model. But that's how a lot of people exercise. They like it. It's easy to do. It's easy to digest. It's easy to go into a gym and just paint by numbers. Okay, I'm going to do this machine, then that machine, then that machine, and then this free weight, and then that free weight, and then that free weight. It's very simple to do. It's very easy to program and easy to follow along to. So that's why people like it. It's also easy to see sort of a gain, if you will. Hey, I was able to do 75 pounds on the lat pull down. Now I'm able to do 90 pounds. So I must be getting better. And sure, you're getting better at doing that activity, but what does that activity translate into at the gym? What does that exercise translate into? Usually the person still can't do a pull-up at that point. So if that was a goal of theirs, there's a lot more into pull-ups than just your lat strength and your bicep strength. There's a whole lot more into pull-ups than that. Same thing with push-ups, same thing with deep squatting, same thing with any other basic functional movement. So it's easy to digest and it's better than doing nothing. So a lot of people get stuck there. And to me, I say, why can't we do better? We have a tool to do better, and that tool is activity. So let's take that individual right there that I just said. They're exercising 6 days a week, breaking things down by body part. And let's say we're able to get in their mind and change their mindset into something else. It's not that I want them out of the gym completely. So let's dispel that notion here. But what if we took that same person 6 days and did something like this, where now Monday, upper body in the gym. Cool, I'm okay with that. I don't think it's overly functional, but we'll get to that and how that changes in a second. Tuesday, they're going into a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai type class. Wednesday, they're doing some sort of a hike. They're outdoors, they're doing some sort of outdoor activity. If you're in a Four Seasons area like I live in, Western New York, it's gonna be skiing or snowshoeing or hiking or bike riding or kayaking, stand-up paddleboarding, some sort of just outdoor activity that you can do either by yourself, you can do with family, you can do with the kids, you can do with your significant other, it doesn't matter. It's just some sort of activity like that. And again, skiing, snowboarding, snowshoeing, stand-up paddleboarding, kayaking, hiking, jogging, biking, doesn't matter what it is. Rollerblading, any of these things fit just fine. Now we go on to Thursday. This is lower body day. You can still do legs, but let's switch it up to lower body, core. You can do core with upper body, or you can do it with both days. It doesn't matter. You have enough time in between from Monday to Thursday. Friday is again Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You're doing some sort of other activity, and we'll get to the benefits of that in a second. Saturday, you go back into another outdoor activity. As I said, snowshoeing, skiing, bike riding, jogging, hiking, doesn't matter. We've gone over the list, so you can rewind it if you need to hear it again. But that's a 6-day-a-week activity focused versus the previous one, which is a 6-day-a-week gym focused. Now, let's compare the benefits between the two. Is there a health benefit to doing the activity based? Absolutely, of course there is. There's a health benefit, but not only for the cardiovascular system, but you're really challenging the musculoskeletal system now, or musculotendinous system, if you really want to talk about the tendon strength and the tendon issues. You're really challenging that in a different way. So you're challenging it not just by putting load against that particular tendon, but you're doing more neurological challenge where you're challenging against an entire pattern. So your upper and lower body days are going to change because you're going to pick up on, hey, I'm doing hikes, I'm doing bike riding, I'm doing rollerblading, I'm now doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai, and here are some of my deficiencies that have been uncovered through there. What exercises in the gym can I do to be better at it? I have an issue that will be solved with core strength and hip strengthening, especially hip extension. So I'm going to work on these type of things in the gym to make my jiu-jitsu game better. Perfect. This is exactly what you should be doing. Exercise is your supplement to your activity. So the health benefits, absolutely. You're getting outside, so there's your vitamin D and everything else that comes with being outside. You're probably doing these with people. Again, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is pretty hard to do by yourself unless you're just rolling around with a Swiss ball all day long or a training dummy. But you're going to be getting the social aspect of joining a hiking club or doing a hiking challenge, getting to know other skiers and snowboarders and bike riders and rollerbladers and people in your jiu-jitsu class, your Muay Thai class. You're going to get to know all of them. So you're going to gain a social benefit to it as well. On top of that, you really gain something pretty useful. So a lot of people that work out 6 days a week, they can't defend themselves. They can't fight. I know this firsthand because when I worked at a large box gym, people would want to spar with me all the time and they would humiliate themselves. And it's not like I'm some sort of great fighter or anything like that. They would just not be any good at it at all. They can't fight, even though they're big and they're strong and they can move a hell of a lot more weight than I could back then. It didn't matter. They were slow, they were uncoordinated, they were weak when it came to actually doing anything functional. So now if you supplement those 2 days of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Thai, now you can defend yourself. Now you can take care of yourself in a fight. Now you can size people up if you need to learn how not to get into fights. And again, you have a much different motor pattern that you're starting to groove. Your strength is going to change. You're going to change the way you exercise to make yourself better at that. So you're learning a really useful skill on top of doing that. And again, you don't have to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai. This is just an example. You can go take boxing. You can go do any type of, really physical activity that is, not really worried about sets and reps. You can pick up fencing, you can pick up anything you want. It doesn't matter. It doesn't even have to be martial arts based. You can go ballroom dancing, you can pick up gymnastics, you can go do, regular traditional dance, hip hop dance, ballroom dance, jazz. It doesn't matter what it is. You can pick up any of these things and you'll still get the same type of benefits. But if you pick up a martial art, you'll have the benefit of being able to defend yourself as well. So that's a really massive benefit in my book. I want to have some people on to talk about that in the future podcast, but we'll get to that down the road. So the idea of switching from exercise to activity, let's look at the last factor here. Is it more fun? I would argue certainly yes. I think a lot of people do enjoy being in the gym and they really like it. It's a good place for them. That they feel kind of at peace there. They're happy exercising, but you're going to get a lot more sustained enjoyment and challenge out of doing your activities. If you master something in a Brazilian jiu-jitsu class or a Thai class, or you master a dance technique or something like that, or if you go to a new trail and you hike it, or you can hike it a little bit faster, or you see a waterfall at that trail that you really enjoy, spending time with your kids, spending time with your significant other at these waterfalls, or going there by yourself and just enjoying that time away from everybody, usually those activity-based things are far more enjoyable long-term. If you were to ask people, hey, what did you do today? Oh, I went to the gym and did legs. You're not going to get as much of a response from the general public and people you talk to versus, hey, I went to the Niagara Falls Whirlpool Gorge today and ran down the stairs or did a little hiking down there. People are going to say, oh, that's really cool. I love it there. Instead of saying, oh, that's really cool. I love it at the gym. And the gym's okay. And like I said, people do enjoy it. But if we can add activity and modify things from just straight exercise to activity, you're going to gain so many more benefits than you would if you're just exercising 6 days a week. And again, it is better than doing nothing. But shouldn't we set our bar a little higher than it's better than doing nothing? That's kind of the thing that I hear all the time. Well, and what would you rather have me do? Nothing? I've never been an advocate of doing nothing and being sedentary. I've been an advocate of adding in activity and making that your focus and then using exercise as your supplement. So those are just a couple of ideas here, switching things up, like I said, from a 6-day-a-week model at a gym to a 2-day-a-week model at the gym, and then adding in those other 4 days into something more activity-based. Give that a shot. Even if you only knock out 1 day and work your way up to the 4 days, give that a try and see what happens. See how you enjoy your activity. See how your life changes when you start adding in activity and more task-based things versus just repetitions and sets. I think you'll see a lot of great changes in your life if you do stuff like that. You see psychological benefits, social benefits, and one of the things that we're doing in medicine is we're gaining more acceptance to the psychosocial model, where we understand that your social setting has an influence on your physical biologic health. We have an understanding that your psychological health has an influence on your actual physiologic health and your physiologic well-being. So if you can add in those things from an activity standpoint, you're going to do a lot better for your overall general health. So take that into consideration. Hopefully you can reach out for a few ideas. If you need ideas or need help on that, hit me in the comments section. I have my email at the end of this podcast. You can find me on Instagram for a whole bunch of ideas. If you live in the Western New York area, I've been posting Explore Western New York type things on my page. Check those out. I've been doing to a whole bunch of great places that are within Western New York. So if you live around here, perfect. If not, there are all sorts of resources and groups you can find anywhere, Instagram, Facebook, any of those places like that, where you can find a whole bunch of different resources for where waterfalls are in your area, where hiking trails are, where paths are in your area. So I hope you can find those things, add a little bit of activity to your life, and change your mindset a little bit. Your body and your health will absolutely thank you. This is Dr. Lee Krol talking about things on the podcast. If there's anything you want me to talk about, go ahead and hit me up with either an email, a message on Instagram, or comment down below. If you've made it this far, we're about 20 minutes into the podcast, maybe a little bit less. At this point, what you should be doing is you should be liking this podcast. You should be liking this video by hitting that thumbs up. If you found it on Instagram, share it to your story, share it to your timeline. If you found it on Facebook, hit that thumbs up and share it to your timeline. This is what makes the channel grow. If you like this information, get it out there to other people. Tell people about it. This is Dr. Lee Krol signing off, and I will see you next time.